When I woke up, I didn't recognize the pale Omega in the hospital room at all. My mom told me he was Daniel, the Omega I'd married 6 months ago. After going through a round of tests, the results came back. I'd lost my memory. Other than that, my body was fine. So Mom told me to go home with Daniel. By the time we got in the car, I'd already pieced together what was going on. We'd matched up perfectly, which is how we even met and ended up married. According to Mom, we were inseparable after the wedding. Always together, like two peas in a pod. But now, staring at his smooth, delicate face, I couldn't remember a single thing about him. I knew this had to be crushing for Daniel, because right now, felt like I'd only forgotten him. Master Daniel, you're back. As the door opened, the AI robot John stepped forward to greet us. I stared at the bot, stunned. You're still running? I thought you'd be scrapped by now. John had been with me since high school, back when I lived on campus for college. It went into hibernation. Never thought I'd see you still serving me after marriage. You're the one who's supposed to be scrapped. John snapped. I heard you lost your memory, Master. Daniel's such a great Omega. How could you forget him? My smile faltered. I glanced instinctively at the Omega beside me. Daniel said I fell and knocked myself out. I remember everything else from that fall except him. Even John knows Daniel's amazing. Daniel wore a soft smile, like it didn't bother him at all. After locking eyes, he said gently, "It's fine." Didn't it matter that his own mate had forgotten him? I stood there, silent, watching him walk inside. John followed right behind, sighing. What kind of considerate Omega is Daniel? Then it turned back to me, adding, Master, you better remember Daniel fast. Got it? I muttered, frowning, then shut the door. Later, we lounged on the couch watching TV. Because of his comment, John got sent to wash dishes. Once he was gone, the silence between Daniel and me felt awkward. It wasn't just my imagination. We didn't really know each other. Not like Mom always said we were glued together everywhere. Clearing my throat, I popped a grape into my mouth. Daniel, how did we used to act around each other? Daniel blinked once, then murmured, like this, like this. What does that even mean? Sitting in silence, staring at the TV like two strangers? So, what about, stuff between us? I asked, my voice a little unsteady. He looked shocked, his eyes wide open, just like the grape in my hand. You have to kiss me lots of times every day, morning, noon, and night. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. So we still have that rule after all? That's kind of intense. Seeing him blush like a tomato, I couldn't resist teasing him further. Anything else? I held the grape toward his lips. There's got to be more than just kissing, right? He turned a deep shade of red, stammering, and nothing else. The grape slipped into his mouth, and the soft touch of his lips sent a jolt through my fingers. My throat went dry all of a sudden. I rubbed my fingertip, then found myself staring again at Daniel's lips. Can I now? I leaned in, voice low and rough. His lips parted slightly. He nodded slowly, dazed. The moment our mouths met, my hand around his waist trembled, and my pulse kicked into overdrive. His lips were even softer than I remembered. Sweeter too. The juice burst in my mouth, sweet and juicy. When it ended, his eyes were glistening, breath coming fast. The flushed cheeks and damp corners of his eyes made me lean in for one more kiss. Daniel was stiff in my arms, like he didn't know where to put his hands or feet. I let go and chuckled in his ear. Baby, why are you so awkward? You've got to kiss me at least 3 times a day. Shouldn't you be used to it by now? I was still close to his ear, so I didn't see the sudden pallor creeping across his face. Daniel headed upstairs. I stormed into the kitchen, hunting down some sneaky little robot. Hand it over, I said, stretching my leg out to block John's path. John waved his mechanical hand at me. Sir, I didn't do anything. I'm not deleting it. I just want to see if they made us look terrible. I caught him filming me and Daniel kissing. I saw the camera before I closed my eyes. John sent the photo straight to me. The picture showed me wrapped around Daniel, mid-kiss. His Omega cheeks were flushed, head tilted back, eyes shut, a tiny frown on his lips. That's it, I said, raising an eyebrow. Really? If John's been snapping pics like this since the accident, then back when we were married, I probably never even stopped him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to take one now. Where's the photo of me and Daniel before I lost my memory? John went quiet for a beat, then stammered, There aren't any. Its voice suddenly shot up. Master, you're so stingy. You never let me take pictures before. Said Daniel was only for your eyes. After a long pause, I asked softly, So, My past with Daniel wasn't actually what you all made it out to be. We weren't close back then, were we? John flinched, stepping back a few paces. Ma'am, I swear. I didn't say that. That was all I needed to know. My mom must have warned him. But what about Daniel? Why was he hiding it too? Was our bad relationship because of me? I started walking up the stairs, John trailing behind. Master, how did you figure it out? You really think I'm as clueless as you? I shot back, glancing sideways. John huffed and turned to go downstairs. Before dinner, I went upstairs to grab something and found out we'd been sleeping in separate rooms. All the daily stuff was split into 2 sets, each side of the house stocked with its own version. I didn't remember how I felt about Daniel before my memory went. But one thing was clear, I wanted to fix things now. A sweet, adorable Omega. Exactly the kind I'd always imagined in real life. How fucking stupid was I back then? I actually chose to sleep in separate rooms from Daniel. I'm sleeping with him tonight, no way around it. I stopped in front of his bedroom door, hesitating. What if Daniel was the one who suggested sleeping apart? Then wouldn't I be walking in on him like this, totally ruining it? Maybe I should just play dumb and pretend I didn't know. After a moment of thought, I marched in with full confidence. I'm amnesiac. I don't even remember how we used to be before. So what if I want to sleep with my Omega now? A pale blanket bulged upward, revealing only a fluffy head. Hearing the noise, Daniel peeked out from under the covers, eyes wide with surprise. We're sleeping together, right? I asked from the doorway, playing innocent. After a beat, Daniel nodded, silently making room. Yeah, we are. I rushed to brush my teeth and wash up. Daniel watched me silently as I came out of the bathroom, his cheeks tinged red. My eyes flickered to him, and I couldn't help but swallow hard. Should I turn off the lights? I immediately regretted it the second I said it, wishing I could take it back. God, that sounded like some new bride nervous on her wedding night. No alpha energy at all. Aren't you coming over? Daniel finally spoke, sitting up and looking at me. There's a switch by the headboard. He paused. If you don't come over soon, I'm going to sleep. Then he lay back down, pulled the blanket up to his chin, fingers clutching the edge with pale, slender precision. The light clicked off. The room plunged into darkness. After a few seconds, my eyes adjusted enough to make out shapes. The Omega must have been too hot. He'd kicked off the blanket. He was lying on his side, facing away from me. A sweet peach scent hung in the air, soft as a ribbon wrapping around me. He turned toward me, eyes dark and clear. Just me in the depths of them. Couldn't hold back my pheromones. When I snapped back to myself, the room was thick with our scents. White tea and peach tangled in the air like smoke. Daniel curled into me, letting me hold him close. My memory of him was still a blank slate. Maybe we're moving too fast. I suppressed my pheromones, voice rough. Get some sleep. Under the moonlight, I caught a flash of hurt in his eyes. I started to explain. Daniel turned away, facing the wall. It's fine. He always says that. When I woke up, Daniel was already awake, brushing his teeth. I lay in bed a bit longer before dragging myself to the bathroom. Daniel just stepped out, his bangs still damp, water droplets clinging to his face. His clear eyes caught mine, and my heartbeat kicked up without permission. How the hell did I ever not like Daniel before losing my memory? Thinking about how close we'd come to crossing a line last night, I felt a flush of embarrassment. Morning. Daniel lifted one eyelid to glance at me, then gave it a long pause before answering. Morning. He sidestepped past me, sending a faint trail of peach-scented air swirling through the room. The lingering ghost of that peach musk in the bathroom hit me all at once. I finally got it. Even if he said it didn't matter, Daniel still felt hurt by me last night. The scent was strong, peachy, heady, and just like that, I couldn't help but think about what we'd almost done. We sat across from each other at breakfast, both silent, neither of us saying a word. I tried 3 times to start a conversation with him. Daniel just gave a vague hum and let it drop. When I saw the milk residue on his lip, my hand moved before I could stop it. Touching his lips was like flipping a switch. The memory of last night's kiss flashed back in full. Daniel pulled away, just slightly. My fingers slipped along his cheek. So soft, like down. I pulled my hand back. My fingertips still burned where it had touched him. Just wiping the corner of your mouth. I said, voice low. Thanks, Daniel murmured, then stood up fast. His thin frame vanished up the stairs in seconds. Had I done it again? mess things up without meaning to? Was I being too forward? Omegas were always hard to read. I stopped John from chasing after Daniel. What would I do in a situation like this? John hesitated for a beat, then sent back a single red X. Sir, he said, you just shut down, cold and silent. There's no right way to handle something like this. It yanked my hand off with its mechanical grip. I'm going upstairs to comfort Daniel. Move aside. My wife. Since when did a damn robot get the right to comfort her? No way. As we stood there locked in silence, I caught a glimpse of Daniel coming back down the stairs. He headed straight for the front door. I called out after him, Daniel, you heading out? Work, Daniel said, already slipping on his shoes. With a slow step, I walked over and reminded him, you forget something? Daniel froze mid-motion, standing there with that stone-faced expression he'd worn all morning, now flushed red, completely flustered in front of the shoe cabinet. I smiled and leaned down slightly. Go on, tell me what you forgot. I smiled and stepped forward, leaning down slightly. Go on, tell me yourself. What did you forget? He bit his lip, then whispered, a kiss. I pretended to pout. Fine, if you don't want to, I won't push. No, I do. Daniel shook his head, stepped closer, and tilted his chin up like a good boy. Laughing softly, I finally pulled him in, wrapped my arms around his waist, and gave him a slow, lingering kiss. When we broke apart, Daniel fumbled for the bag hanging on the wall, glancing at me once, then quickly looking away. I'm out, he mumbled, practically fleeing through the door without a backward glance. Flustered and running like that, he was way cuter than when he just shrugged it off with, it's fine. God, I could have bitten right into him, just to let that peachy sweetness spill everywhere. I suppressed a smirk and hurried after him. Let me walk you out. The car was sealed tight, the faint scent of peaches lingering in the air. Daniel didn't say a word after getting in, just turned his face toward the window, staring out. I exhaled quietly. Looks like things between me and Daniel weren't exactly great before I lost my memory. When we finally arrived, Daniel broke the silence at last. But the moment he spoke, I frowned. William, you don't have to go through all this trouble. Just like before, I can manage my own commute. I didn't get it. He refused my ride, yet he'd offered to keep kissing me every day. I locked the doors, then asked, did we really have a bad relationship? Daniel rested his hand on the door handle, eyes lowered. No, we were good. I studied his profile. His lashes fluttered like a moth's wings. So, are you mad at me for forgetting? Before he could answer, I unlocked the door. Just before stepping out, Daniel paused in front of the car and said softly, William, I'm not angry about your amnesia. I want you to be healthy, just like my mom does. I'm scared you'll remember, and then regret it. He looked straight at me, his gaze deep and quiet. Regret? Regret what? I just know this marriage needs fixing, badly. If we keep going like this, that's when the real regret sets in. For the next few days, I made a point of finding moments to talk to Daniel. It's kind of funny, really. We're supposed to be perfectly matched. Mates who should have been able to talk about anything, lost in each other. Yet I had to force conversations just to get a word in with him. I wonder how I acted toward Daniel before I lost my memory. Quietness was his armor, something he wore like a shield. When Daniel disappeared into the bathroom, I waited outside the door. Daniel, I said the second he opened the door, catching him by surprise and pressing him against the wall. If you really don't want to, we can just get a divorce. As soon as the words left my mouth, his bright eyes welled up, tears spilling over in silence. Don't cry, I stammered, wiping at his face, only to realize the more I wiped, the more they came. I added quickly, I'm not actually trying to leave you. I don't mind. Daniel mumbled, half sobbing, letting me pull him out of the bathroom, running my fingers over his damp cheeks. My chest tightened. Do you even like me? Daniel bit down on his lip, silent, tears falling without stopping. I released a calming pheromone with a sigh, resigned. He couldn't speak, but I could. I told him straight up, I like you. I think the me before the memory loss must have felt the same way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have married you, no matter how high our pheromone match was. Daniel's eyes widened, disbelief flickering across his face. He stayed silent for a long moment. After what felt like ages, he finally whispered, I do, but William, you forgot. His voice cracked. We were just partners by agreement. The marriage contract, 2 copies sealed in the safe, lay quietly in Daniel's hands as he pulled it out. I finally get it. Why Daniel's been pulling away from me these past few weeks. Yet he still wanted me to stay close. Pretending we were happy together, lying with my mom about how perfect our relationship was. Daniel pointed at the paper. You said it yourself. We're helping each other out. 2 years, then divorce, no illusions, no attachments. I never thought you'd lose your memory, or that you'd tell me you liked me after it happened. Daniel turned to look at me, his voice low and serious. Can't you just stop being so nice to me? I'm afraid I'll. He dropped his gaze to his hands, fingers twisting together. I won't be able to let go. The way he held back tears, eyes raw and pleading, it hit me like a fist to the chest. My breath caught. Of all the people in the world, it had to be me. It was my own damn fault. And now I've lost those memories too. Want to scream at myself, but can't. I'm just stuck in this mess. Still, I held him close and gently kissed the corner of Daniel's eye. Forget that damn contract. Right now, I'm just me. Someone who likes you. I don't remember signing anything, so I don't recognize it. Daniel's lips tightened. His eyes widened with disbelief. You're saying? I cut him off before he could finish. Straight to the point. Daniel, want to give us a shot? I stared at him without a word, waiting for his answer. Even though I knew he felt the same, my chest still tightened in nerves. Yes, he leaned in then, like he'd made up his mind. The scent of peaches slipped into my nose between our breaths. He brushed a soft kiss against my cheek and pulled back slightly. I inhaled deeply, my heart racing like it wanted to break free. I wrapped an arm around his waist, fingers sliding into the back of his hair, pulling him hard toward me. Our mouths tangled, the taste of white tea and peaches blending into something warm, hazy, and utterly intoxicating. My hands slid down his back, fingers pressing into the smooth, flawless skin, sending a shiver through him. Then I pulled back just in time, turning my face away before things got out of hand. Daniel dazedly stayed curled in my arms, still caught off guard. I guided Daniel onto the bed. I'm gonna take a shower. He opened his mouth, then closed it, reaching out to tug at my sleeve. After a long pause, I stepped away toward the bathroom. This was moving too fast. How long had I been forgetful? How brief had our connection really been? If we kept going, I was afraid Daniel'd regret it later. When I finally lay down, Daniel was still facing away from me, just like the first night. Baby, didn't you give me a chance? Pouted, leaning in and sliding my hand to his waist. Daniel went rigid. The scent of peaches flooded the air even more. I couldn't help but bury my face in the crook of his neck, pulling him close. After a long silence, just as I thought he'd fallen asleep, he spoke up, quiet and strained. William, are you? He turned over, his face full of worry. You're not okay? How could he even think that about me? I gritted my teeth and snapped. Daniel, where the hell did you get an idea like that? Daniel gave a nervous smile. But you always. His eyes flicked down, then darted back up to meet mine. I just pulled him into my arms. White tea scent flooded the room, thick and sweet. Daniel let out a soft whimper. William, I loosened my grip, smirking. Well, still think I'm not good at this? Daniel buried his burning face into my neck, mumbling, got it. I rubbed the back of his hot neck. Then go to sleep already. Next time I won't be so gentle. As a memory loss case, my parents were kind enough to let me off work duty, so my biggest daily thrill became picking Daniel up after work. But today's drop-off spot seemed a little different from usual. Guess I didn't see this coming. My usually sweet Omega sneaking off to bars after hours. Daniel didn't get in the car when he saw me. Instead, he tapped on my window. What's up? Did someone give him a hard time at the bar? Need me to step in? The thought of my quiet Daniel getting shoved around sent me scrambling out of the car. Daniel shook his head and slipped his arm through mine. He'd finally stopped avoiding me. Now he made moves when he wanted to, no hesitation. My friend wants to meet you. Is that okay? I nodded and walked in with him. Of course, I'd love to. Well, it was just meeting a friend. Good thing. I let out a silent breath. I stopped mid-step. You didn't say anything earlier. Showing up empty-handed feels kinda awkward. It's fine, he said, not even breaking stride. Daniel pulled me straight down the hallway and turned into what looked like an office. As soon as we stepped inside, a guy's voice teased Daniel. Daniel, you finally dragged your alpha out from under the rock. No more hiding. Daniel's face lit up red. He turned to me and said, you weren't really into talking to me back then, so I didn't bring you here much. or even hang out with you at all. Turns out I was wrong. Daniel wasn't being bullied. He wasn't just hanging out with friends at a bar. He was the owner behind the scenes, the boss of the place. Daniel's friend Leo, another alpha, pulled me into a seat and started chatting while we sipped drinks. "What's with the nice face today?" he said, sounding genuinely surprised. I just blinked at Daniel, confused. That's how I always was before. Wait, was my married version of me some kind of grumpy alpha all the time? Daniel probably read my mind. He let out a low chuckle and nodded. "You used to do that at social events? Give everyone the icy stare." Daniel mimicked my old expression, then busted out laughing as soon as he tried. I couldn't believe I'd turned into such a grumpy alpha after marriage. Honestly, I just didn't get it. He was so damn cute back then. How could I ever have let him go? I brooded quietly as Leo kept talking. "But hey, thanks to you, William," he said, slinging an arm over my shoulder. "If it weren't for your support, Daniel and I would have had our bar shut down cold by his family." The thought of Daniel being forced into that arranged marriage made me tense up. Yet, without it, I never would have met him. Right then, I couldn't help myself. I leaned in and kissed Daniel right in front of Leo. Daniel froze like he'd been struck, stunned. Leo erupted instantly. When Daniel snapped back to life, he took the glass from my hand and murmured, "Don't drink anymore, William." After we got home, Daniel told me why he'd agreed to the marriage contract. "My parents weren't happy I wanted to keep running the bar. They thought it wasn't right for an omega like me to be in that kind of business, and they definitely didn't approve of me being with Leo, a alpha. So they made me promise to marry you instead and help manage the Schur family's affairs." Being raised with strict rules, omegas often develop a bit of rebellion. Daniel was no different. The Schur family wanted him to play it safe, settle down like every other omega, marry, have kids, all the usual stuff, but he had no interest in that path. Daniel leaned his head against my shoulder and smiled. "Maybe you were pushed into it too. That's why you came to me first. Told me about the contract. You stick by me while I do what I want to do, and I'll be the perfect partner for you." So Daniel's now working at Schur family's company during the day and still has to swing by the bar some nights. "You've been working your little heart out, my love, my sweet thing. You've worked so hard." Daniel brushed his nose against my cheek. "Actually, Schur family's got someone managing things for me. My days are a breeze, and it finally stops my parents from pressuring me like crazy." Guess I wasn't as terrible to Daniel before the memory loss as I thought. The tightness in my chest finally eased. I pulled him closer, holding my omega close, warm and drowsy, with soft warmth wrapped around me. I was starting to feel restless. Before I could do anything, a mechanical voice cut through the air. "The hangover remedy's ready, Daniel." John brought over 2 bowls of soup, just the right temperature. Daniel shoved me back instantly, grinning like a kid who'd pulled off a prank. He silently mouthed, "You always push me away too. Who told you to be the one?" No chance to respond. Daniel shoved the soup into my hands, lifted my arm, and used the bowl's edge to gently press against my lips. I sighed and drank it down. What? I'd already held off this many times. What's one more? I was quietly planning my Friday date. Daniel beat me to it, dragging me along to a gala instead. His smile faded as I froze, the tension in my face hitting him like a cold splash. You're not already booked for something else, are you?" Daniel whispered, pulling back just slightly. I reached out fast and grabbed his wrist. He still wasn't as sure of us as I thought he'd be. I didn't press, just gave him a quiet explanation. "I really meant to go on our date, that's all." Daniel stayed still as I pulled him into my arms. "So, you're not," I cut in. "You've already got me at that party, so who else would I be going out with? I'm right here with you, obviously. It's not about the place, it's just us two. That's what makes it a date." Later, as I was getting into bed, Daniel turned to me again, eyes full of doubt. He sat up. "You don't have to come with me if you really don't want to." "Daniel, you're going straight back to sleep now," I said, tugging the blanket over him like a cocoon. "Don't say stuff like that." He looked up at me through the blanket's nest, eyes wide and round. "Fine, I won't." But he still smiled, eyes dancing with some hidden plan. At the banquet, I was practically glowing as Daniel escorted me like a peacock in full display. The moment I heard him called Little Chief, I straightened up with pride. I was the perfect alpha, compliant, capable, and all the things an Omega should be. People kept giving me curious looks, asking why I hadn't shown up lately. I couldn't exactly say I'd lost my memory, so I frowned and mumbled some vague excuse. Daniel reached out and smoothed the crease from my brow. I should have thought this through. They'll ask eventually, I said, shrugging it off. I've been holed up at home for nearly 2 months. William, if you're bored, go grab a little cake. Daniel patted my hand and gestured toward the dessert table in the corner. Huh? Didn't I usually say that to him? The little cakes are actually really good, Daniel said, nodding toward the tray. Realizing he was trying to keep me out of questions, I gave a quick nod and smiled. I'll wait over there while you finish up with the little chief, I said. Then we can hit it off properly. He blushed at that, offering a soft yeah in return. I hadn't even finished my little slice when I heard movement nearby, and Daniel's voice, unmistakably in the mix. Guess I'm not allowed to step away for 5 minutes without someone trying to mess with my sweet thing. I set down the half-eaten cake and hurried over. Before I'd even reached them, a mocking voice from an Omega cut through the air. How dare you bring him here? Don't you know he only sees me when he's around me? Daniel, you're just my replacement in William's life. Replacement? So I married Daniel before I lost my memory, just so he'd be a stand-in for someone else? Something in me told me this Omega wasn't telling the truth. Looking at him, there was no denying he looked a lot like Daniel. I instinctively turned to look at Daniel, dreading what I might see on his face. Just as I was about to step in, Daniel spoke up. Anthony, don't go pulling out old stuff about us being in the same class. You really think I'd believe that? You know better than anyone how fake it is. Anthony flinched like he'd been hit in the chest, his face darkening with fury as he raised a hand. I rushed forward to stop him. Before I could get there, Anthony screamed, "You dare splash me with water?" He whirled around and saw me. He broke down instantly, tears pouring. William, look what he did. He soaked me. Daniel still held the empty cup. Seeing me approach, his face turned as pale as paper. I stepped right in, wrapping an arm around Daniel's waist, gently taking the empty cup from his hand and setting it on the table. Then I ruffled his hair, calm but steady. Only then did I turn my attention to Anthony. I blurted out without a second thought, "My Daniel's as sweet as they come. He wouldn't dare splash you like that." Daniel stared at me, wide-eyed and speechless. Anthony was so furious he nearly cried, too stunned to speak. Leo suddenly appeared out of nowhere. "I swear on it, Daniel didn't do a thing. You're bullying me." Seeing no one had his back, Anthony stamped his foot and bolted off. All the greetings were done, so I just took Daniel and walked away. "Anthony's my cousin. He was your classmate in freshman year." In the dim glow of the car, I couldn't read Daniel's expression. I peeled off the sticker at the back of my neck and released a calming pheromone toward him. Daniel relaxed slightly, then said, "He kept telling me that because we'd been in the same class, I was just a replacement for you. We'd just gotten married back then. We weren't close at all. You never talked to me. I actually believed you'd only taken me on as a stand-in. So I never dared to feel anything for you." He looked at me, fingers twisting the edge of his shirt. Across the console, I reached out and pulled him into a hug, then kissed the corner of his mouth to soothe him. Later, I had someone check. Turned out he was lying all along. That's when it hit me, clear as day. Daniel had liked me even before I lost my memory. He wanted a sign, some kind of response. After I forgot everything, he and my mom made up that story about us being close, just so I wouldn't feel alone. In case I'd forget my feelings once I lost my memory, he bet everything on me falling for him again. Streetlights spilled through the window, painting soft gold across Daniel's lashes and cheeks. "William, do you believe me?" I traced the edge of his tiny earlobe. "Of course I do. Honestly, I didn't even know who he was. Besides, if anyone's worth liking, it's you, way out of his league." Daniel suddenly said, "I didn't actually have to come to this party. I just knew Anthony would be here. So I brought you on purpose. Come to claim what's yours?" I teased, my fingers grazing his jaw. Daniel gave a quiet hum, blushing as warmth crept up his neck. I leaned in closer. "So, should we seal the deal?" Daniel tugged my collar, pulling me down until our mouths met. I pressed his head into mine, deepening the kiss. By the time the car was thick with pheromones, I finally pulled back and looked at him. "Let's go home," Daniel said, his face flushed, glancing away toward the window. I grinned and nodded, starting up the engine. Daniel had a few too many tonight. Even though he's got a decent tolerance as an omega, I still made him some hangover soup. Just finished up when John came rushing in. Master, Daniel's in heat. John's screen lit up with a pheromone levels alert. The air was thick with omega pheromones, more intense than ever before. Daniel's heat came on so suddenly, caught him off guard. I fumbled through the medicine cabinet, searching for the suppressant. Where is it? Couldn't find it, so I turned to John. John opened his supply case and handed me the suppressant. Sir, aren't you going to spend your fever phase with Daniel? That's up to him. I'm not forcing anything. I took off upstairs. Darkness filled the room. I followed the strongest trace and found Daniel without trouble. Daniel was drenched in sweat, soaked through like he'd just been pulled from a pool. Daniel gasped, "William, baby?" I murmured, "Do you need your suppressants? Or do you want me to stay with you?" Daniel just stared at me, frozen, like his mind had short-circuited. I asked again, patient but firm. A beat passed before Daniel finally whispered his answer. "You stay with me." I lit up, grinning. "Yeah, I'm right here with you, always. Master, Daniel's temperature has dropped a bit." John went through the quick check on the omega like he'd done 100 times before, pulling up the vitals on the screen. I yawned and waved John off to the kitchen. It's normal for an omega to run a fever during their heat cycle, but Daniel's been past that phase now. His temperature hasn't come down after a full day of rest. The omega looked pale and weak, curled tight under the covers. Then it hit me, the one thing I'd been ignoring all along. An omega is capable of bearing children. I stood up and paced around the room, feeling utterly lost and kicking myself for not thinking ahead. Neither of us had ever talked about this. Now we're suddenly facing it? Sir, you haven't told John yet. Just don't start with me right now. I ran my hands through my hair, fumbling to order a few parenting books online. After the orders went through, I flopped back down beside the bed, staring at Daniel as he slept. "Come on, baby, wake up already," I whispered, poking at Daniel's flushed cheeks with my fingertip. His peacefulness pulled me under. Drowsiness rolled over me like a wave, and I ended up dozing off right there on the edge of the bed. When I opened my eyes again, it was that same blank white void. I lifted my hand and saw the pulse oximeter clipped to my fingertip. I tried to piece things together. My head throbbed. Memories flooded in like a crashing wave, making me groan through the pain. "William," Daniel's voice came soft and thick with a nasal whine. Right beside me, I gritted my teeth and reached out to take his hand. Frame after frame of Daniel flashed through my mind. Each one I grabbed tight. I found it, the missing piece. Part of me had thought there wouldn't be much of Daniel in that memory. After all, he told me I barely even noticed him back then. What shocked me? The memory was packed almost entirely with Daniel. I'd been stalking him like some creep, watching him every single day. Daniel, trying not to show he hated the veggies, forced himself to eat them one by one. Daniel lounged on the couch watching TV, really just waiting for me to come home from work. Daniel stood confidently at the launch event, delivering his speech with ease. Daniel's face was flushed with fever, and he asked me if I'd stay with him. I stayed through the whole thing, of course, but kept it polite, almost too formal to be natural. I even asked him directly about how he felt each step of the way, putting him so flustered he could barely look me in the eye. So why did I only ever watch him from the shadows? Because back then, I thought Daniel's true alpha was Leo. Two guys who'd grown up together, shared a bar that their families hated, and even agreed to marry me just to keep it running. I convinced myself they were meant to be, this tragic pair of lovers trapped by duty. So I buried my feelings, kept them locked up tight. Every time we met, I had to act cold, keep my face stone cold, so he'd never know how much I wanted him. I'm glad I lost my memory. It gave me a second chance with Daniel. Otherwise, we'd have just walked past each other forever. Thinking about it, I squeezed his hand without even realizing. Daniel's eyes widened in concern. "You're still hurting? Should I call the doctor?" "No," I shook my head, trying to calm him down. He wasn't convinced, so I changed the subject. "Could you be pregnant?" I glanced at Daniel's flat stomach. "Did you get checked? You can test it the next day way faster than normal. Just a quick blood test, way faster and easier than usual." After a long silence, Daniel finally nodded, his face flushed, whispering, "I did." Daniel sat down in the chair John pushed over. "John said I slept all day. My temperature was spiking. When I woke up, you were passed out by the bed, so we brought you here. I did a check myself while I was at it." I didn't know until then. He lowered his head, shyly avoiding my gaze. His hand instinctively drifted to his stomach. And when he looked up, our eyes locked. John leaned in with a mischievous grin. Daniel told me, "Now I can activate the baby system. Come on, man. Give us some space. I've got my wife to handle." I gave John a shove, but he didn't budge. "Who'd want to hang around you, sir?" John huffed. "All I care about now is Daniel and our little future bundle of joy." He grumbled under his breath and stomped off to the corner. I turned my attention back to Daniel's face. His face was flushed, the exhaustion from his fever gone, replaced by a healthy glow. I remember everything now. The words were barely out when Daniel froze, then stiffened to his feet. "You're back, William." He took a step back, putting space between us. His fingers gripped the chair's edge as he stared at me, like he was waiting for judgment. I could tell he was scared I'd forgotten what happened while he was out. I teased him instead. "What's wrong? You gonna be the one forgetting now?" Daniel shook his head, rooted in place. "Come here, hug," I said, arms wide open. Before I could blink, the sweet scent of peaches wrapped around me.